Skeleton Crew, the new live-action Disney Plus show, might be one of the biggest miscalculations I have made in all my time talking about Star Wars content. Because I'm gonna be flat out honest, when this show was announced, I truly did not pay it that much mind. Live-action Star Wars shows are honestly kind of a mixed bag in terms of the quality that we've been getting recently. We have shows featuring iconic characters of the franchise sitting in limbo because we don't want to rock the boat too much. We have shows featuring beloved new characters that are slowly losing their momentum and the creative spark that made them interesting in the first place. We have the greatest piece of Star Wars television ever put to screen. And we also had The Acolyte, which I'm gonna say tried its best. What's plagued these Star Wars shows in the past is an inability to try anything new, and a weariness to move away from the successful formula. Ahsoka and The Mandalorian are both guilty of trying to quickly slide back into what is safe, comfortable, recognizable for when these characters started to become popular. Ahsoka was really bent on trying to capture that sense of Rebels nostalgia and adventure. It's why it brought back so many of the Rebels characters, but didn't play around with the fact that 10 years had passed between when Rebels happens and when Ahsoka's supposed to take place. The Mandalorian is even more transparent. Grogu became one of the most popular aspects of The Mandalorian show, so when Season 2 ended and he left, they quickly found a way to retcon that so that he could be back in Season 3 at the cost of giving 2 whole episodes of the Book of Boba Fett to The Mandalorian. And with the Book of Boba Fett and the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, these two characters are so revered and celebrated in the Star Wars franchise that taking any bold stance or bold direction with them apparently was unappetizing, so they just sit in this samey state for the entire show. Andor, in contrast, was a complete jump in a different direction. It took the show of Star Wars and made it a political thriller. Taking a look at the Star Wars galaxy from a far more realistic perspective was satisfying to a lot of people. It made the galaxy feel more gritty and tangible. It made the Empire feel genuinely authoritarian and terrifying. But most importantly, it told a really good story and it gave us a Star Wars experience that we hadn't seen before. And in the complete opposite direction, that is exactly what Skeleton Crew has also done. And I love that for it. Skeleton Crew is a beautiful slice of fresh Star Wars that we have not had before. It takes the idea of a whimsical little space adventure and absolutely runs with it. This show is so much fun. On every level, this show is fun. The characters are likable and charming. The sets are fun and interesting to look at. The costumes and character designs are so detailed and enjoyable. I can't get over how many puppets, how many prosthetics, how many Star Wars aliens, new and old, are just swimming around in every scene of this show. And the fact that pirates play such an important role in this story is an incredible treat to me, because if you've watched any of my TikToks talking about sequel stories, you know that I constantly bring up pirates. One of the best characters in the entire show, SM-33, is just straight up a pirate droid on every level. He has a missing eye, he has a peg leg, he talks constantly about the pirate's code. He's phenomenal. And the fact that he's played so completely straight and earnest as just straight up a pirate droid is amazing. There's a beautiful level of camp in Skeleton Crew. It's not ashamed to be a pirate adventure story set in the Star Wars galaxy. It's not looking at its childish premise and saying, oh, but we're better than that. It is an incredibly childish story, and it's amazing for that. The main cast of kids, yeah, they're a little tropey. You have the tough kid, you have the nerd, you have the naive one, you have the cowardly one. But because this show is so earnestly committed to treating these kids as kids and just letting them behave like children who just so happen to be going about in the Star Wars galaxy, they're great. Neo, the little elephant boy, also my son, I would die for him, is no different from any of the other human characters. He just so happens to be an alien, but he's just as childish, he's just as innocent, he's just as normal as all of them are. So it's this great authentic blending of this setup that we're so used to, but with just a little bit of Star Wars elements to keep it fun and interesting, visually appealing. Jude Law's character is so deliciously scummy and entertaining to watch. The show does do the traditional dance of characters going, should we trust them, should we not, and the show giving little clues and cues about whether or not he's lying or telling the truth. But the way the show has gone about crafting the mystery of Jude, of the various different backstories and names that he has for himself, is honestly commendable. For me, he was a character I was constantly changing my tune on. I was constantly reevaluating what I thought I knew about him, speculating about where I thought he was going. And that's such an achievement for a show that has a generally simple premise, but executes it so well. And also, his character is just chocked full of little Easter eggs and references to other Star Wars media, and some of it is pretty deep cut. I had to look it up or get that information from other Star Wars creators, which just goes to show how much Skeleton Crew enjoys the premise it's playing around with. And speaking of mystery, I have to gush about the overarching question Skeleton Crew raises about the kids' home world. When I learned about this Star Wars suburbia, I kind of wrote it off. I thought that they were taking the quick and easy way to have a plain setting that our kid characters would want to leave to make the galaxy seem cool and adventurous. And I genuinely couldn't have been more wrong about it. The fact that this setting is so plain, so normal, so boring is an actual plot point in the story. And again, like all things in this show, they handle it incredibly well. Skeleton Crew is set during the New Republic era, which, is getting more attention now that other stories are happening alongside it, but for the longest time has been a very boring, underdeveloped setting. For reasons. So, Skeleton Crew having this great story, this genuine mystery happening in the New Republic era that just builds out the galaxy, makes it feel more full, more rich, is another spectacular achievement, despite its small scale and scope. And finally, the show is a genuine treat to watch, and I do mean that. I enjoyed sitting down and watching these episodes one by one. They are full of great shots, of amazing visuals, of awesome music. There are moments that sound like they've been plucked straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean. There are others that make use of classic space-age synthesizers. These shots behind me have no right looking as good as they are, and yet they do, because this show wants nothing more than to just have fun. And I think that is ultimately the greatest victory of Skeleton Crew as a project. The fact that it doesn't feel like it's trying to lock you in to 10 more years of Star Wars. Too many projects in Star Wars focus too much on getting you to buy into the project that will come after this project, rather than just being something enjoyable to consume. Projects like Andor and Skeleton Crew show that not only does everything have to be its own franchise within a franchise, but the Star Wars galaxy, Star Wars stories are incredibly diverse. Andor's great, Skeleton Crew is great, but it's not because they're trying to ape each other's success. They are playing to the strengths of their own genres. And I think that's something that should be prioritized in Star Wars stories going forward, the fact that anything can happen in this galaxy. And it continually reaffirms what I am learning about these shows, which is the more obscure and unknown the characters are, the better it's going to be. Celebrated, franchise-defining characters, mid. Never heard of them before? Phenomenal. But I would genuinely say, if you are a fan not only of Star Wars, but just good stories, you should give this show a shot. And of course, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I haven't seen anybody talk about Skeleton Crew, honestly, so I'd be really curious to see what you have to say about it.